Good evening. Welcome to Jam Time. This is Pastor Lisa, and we continue our Lenten journey. And tonight we're going to be with Jesus and figs. So, do you know what a fig is? It's a fruit that grows on a tree. So, you can see my fig trees here, and one of them is a little different. I want you to look and see if you can tell me why. And if you haven't guessed yet, I'm going to share a story that Jesus told, and maybe that'll help you see which tree is different. Jesus told this story. He said, a man had a fig tree, or fig trees, and he went to look for fruit on it, but he didn't find any. So he went to the gardener who took care of the fig trees and said, for 3 years, I've been coming to look for fruit on this tree, but I haven't found any, so cut it down. Why should it use up the soil? The gardener said, well, sir, leave it alone. And for 1 more year, I'll dig around it and I'll feed it. And if it bears fruit next year, if not, then cut it down. So what would you do if you had, now you can guess, see here's, figs are kind of thought of as purplish brown, so I made them purple. So you can see these trees have figs on, and this one doesn't have any. And here's the man with his axe ready to chop the tree down. And here's the gardener with his shovel and his bucket with fertilizer so that he can help it grow. So so would you want to cut it down, or would you be willing to give it another chance? You know, God shows us love and patience, and I mean, do you think when we make bad decisions or maybe do things that we shouldn't do, and we know we shouldn't, that God just says, oh, I'm going to cut you down or get rid of you? No, of course not. God keeps loving us and caring for us. Sometimes we're not producing fruits of love, but we also know that when we're nourished, we're nourished like that fertilizer that the gardener is going to put on the tree. We get fertilized when we go to Sunday school or church, or when we learn about God in some other way. God helps us to grow and to change so that we produce fruits of love and care. So we want to remember that during our Lenten journey, that we want to be producing fruits of love and care. But to remember that the times that we don't, that we have a loving gardener who's going to continue to nourish us and help us to grow. I have some fig bars, and I don't know if you've ever eaten fig bars, but I have some right here. And so I'm going to open this up. And I kind of thought tonight that I was going to try this. I have no idea if it'll work, but they kind of reminded me of dominoes. So I was going to set them here. Maybe you've tried this with dominoes, so maybe you, and I'm going to set these here to see what might happen then at the end. I'm going to set this nice long line. All right, so Rich, what do you think is going to happen?
They're going to fall over.
All right, so Rich thinks they're going to fall over. Now, they're not dominoes, so let's see if it'll work. So they kind of pushed into one another, but I really had to, they didn't fall over like dominoes, just do this domino. So why do you think that didn't work?
They weigh too much.
Either they weigh too much, or this figs here, it's kind of sticky. And so it, there's friction. So, dominoes are pretty slippery and pretty light. So I don't, this way they don't stand at all. But I think if I were looking at science principles, is that when you have a lot of friction or sticky on the bottom, that they do kind of, if we push them, they'll fall together, right? But they don't fall like the dominoes because they have sticky on them there, and that kind of produces a lot of friction where they just kind of want to stick. So, but if we think about, so they do, they kind of fell. You kind of had to help them. And who knows, maybe I have to push them further away. Let's try that. Maybe they were too close. Let's try that, other than the fact of them being sticky, because I could feel it. Push them further. They were too close. So even though they're sticky, if you put them too close, then they just kind of stick. But if you put them far enough to where they can lean, then it went down just like dominoes. So maybe try that with your dominoes. If you put them real close, what happens to them? But we got it to work. How about that? But it reminds us that that's kind of the way it is when we share God's love. It's like you're passing and you're falling down, and you're passing God's love on to the next person who passes it on to the next person. It's just like the love can keep getting passed along. And so sometimes we call it passing on good deeds, or passing on love. So this week, that's what we want to do. We want to be fig bars and kind of be passing that love of God onto somebody and hope that they keep passing it on. And so we'll just have a whole group of people just kind of waving through communities and schools and homes, just passing on the love of Jesus. So thanks for joining me tonight, and we'll close with a prayer. If you'll repeat after me. Dear God, thank you for teaching me about your love and forgiveness, for nourishing me and fertilizing me with your love. And when I make bad decisions, thank you for still loving me. Help me to pass on your love this week. Amen. Thanks, and have a good night.